Good evening. Welcome to the Planning Commission of the City of Moreno Valley. I now call this meeting to order on October 10th, 2019 at 7:05 p.m. May we have the roll call?
Commissioner Brugaris,
Here.
Commissioner Stephen,
Present.
Commissioner Harris,
Here.
Commissioner DeJeanette,
Here.
Commissioner Corsick,
Present.
Vice Chairperson Baker,
Here.
Chairperson Sims.
Here. Okay, the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Commissioner Corsick. How's that? That's a question and a... Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We're now going to move to the approval of the agenda for tonight. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move to approve the agenda as submitted.
We have a first, second.
I'll second.
All right, we got a first and second. All those in favor, please vote. Look at that, it got approved. Very good. All right, so the motion carries. This is a reading of the public comments procedure. Any person wishing to address the commission on any matter, either under the public comments section of the agenda or scheduled items or public hearings, must fill out a request to speak form available at the door where you walked in. The completed form must be submitted to the secretary prior to the agenda item being called by the chairperson. In speaking to the commission, member of the public may be limited to 3 minutes per person except for the applicant for entitlement. The commission may establish an overall time limit for comments on a particular agenda item. Members of the public must direct their questions to the chairperson of the commission and not to other members of the commission, the applicant, the staff, or the audience. Next item is public comments on any item not on agenda. Are there any speakers?
No, sir.
Okay. Next item on agenda is approval of the consent calendar, and from what I understand, we're going to do two items at once, minutes of August 2nd, 2019, and minutes of September 26, 2019. So unless there's any discrepancies or edits or comments, do we have a motion?
I'll move that we accept the minutes as submitted.
Second?
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Please vote. Okay, it was approved, 7-0. The next item on the agenda is non-public hearing items, in which we do not have any on. So, next item is on the is public hearing items. Item 1 is a general plan amendment, change of zone, plot plan, and expanded environmental review for the Moreno Valley Housing Authority. Can we have the staff report?
Sorry. Excuse me. Planner Jerry Garcino will present the report.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the Planning Commission. My name is Jerry Guaracino, Contract Planner with the City of Moreno Valley Planning Department, and I'll be presenting staff's report tonight for the Courtyards at Cottonwood project. This project consists of several applications, including a general plan amendment, a zone change, plot plan, and a mitigated negative declaration. The applicant, Moreno Valley Housing Authority, seeks to combine 4 existing parcels totaling 8.37 acres into 2 parcels and establish land use designations to support development of an 80-unit affordable multifamily residential development on 6.7 acres, referred to in this report as Parcel 1, and also designating 1.5 acres site designated in this report as Parcel 2 for public facilities to be retained by the city. The vacant project site is located at the northeast corner of Cottonwood Avenue and Indian Streets. Its surrounding uses include the joint Moreno Valley Adult School and March Mountain High School to the north within the public use district, and single-family residential development in the R5 district to the south, east, and west. The city's general plan designates the site as residential 5, which allows a maximum dwelling units of 5 to the acre. The applicant is proposing a general plan amendment on parcel 1 from residential 5 to residential 10, which allows 10 dwelling units to the acre. The balance of the site, parcel 2, would be amended from residential 5 to public to match the general plan designation of the school site to the north. The proposed general plan amendment would allow the development of parcel 1 as an 80-unit affordable multifamily residential development. Consistent with the current general plan land use designation, the project is currently zoned R5 district, which allows a maximum of 5 dwelling units to the acre. The proposed zone change would rezone parcel 1 from R5 to R10, allowing 10 dwelling units to the acre, and parcel 2 from R5 to public district, consistent with the school site. The proposed development would consist of an 80-unit multifamily residential development with 1 manager's unit. The units will be distributed within 2 two-story buildings, each with 30 units designed for families. The unit mix for the 60 family units include 8 one-bedrooms, 24 two-bedrooms, and 28 three-bedroom units designed to support large families. The proposed development also includes a 1-story, 20-unit senior building with 16 one-bedrooms and 4 two-bedroom units. The proposed project also includes a 4,840 square foot community building with offices for management, leasing, maintenance, a maintenance garage, and for the residents, a computer lab, laundry room, and full community kitchen. Other site amenities include a swimming pool, tot lot, basketball courts, and a walking path. A manager's unit will be located in the community building on the 2nd floor. The 3 residential buildings are located within the westerly 2/3 of the site and are separated from the existing residential neighborhood to the east by common open space, landscaping, the community building, which will provide a buffer for the existing homes. The project is gated with the main entrance on Cottonwood Avenue. Visitor parking is provided outside the gate at the southwest corner of the community building to serve the needs of potential renters. Additionally, the project will extend Myron Street, which is currently a undeveloped dead end westerly, to form a full-size cul-de-sac. This will improve circulation within the existing residential neighborhood to the east. It's important to point out that this project, the new project, would not take any vehicular or pedestrian access from the new cul-de-sac that's being constructed. Speak a moment about access and parking. The project will have 2 points of access, a full access entrance and exit on Cottonwood Avenue, and an exit only on Indian Street at the northwest corner of the site. Both access points have been designed for vehicular gates that will be operated electronically. Appropriate stacking has been provided to allow vehicles to queue on site while the gates are operating. The project has been designed to provide a total of 118 parking spaces. This includes 83 carports and 35 open spaces for residents and guests. The required parking for the project is 118 spaces, which includes affordable housing reduction of a half space per unit for a total reduction of 40 spaces. The project is designed to satisfy the parking requirements of the city's municipal code, including ADA accessibility requirements. The driveways and interior drive aisles have been designed and evaluated to ensure adequate truck maneuvering and fire truck access, delivery trucks, and trash pickup. The buildings reflect a contemporary architectural style with high durability materials, including concrete style shake roofs, metal awnings, stacked stone accents, and energy efficient windows, as you can see in these 2-story elevations. The proposed senior units would be located in a 1-story building that fronts Cottonwood Avenue with 2-story buildings behind it to the north. One-story building was intentionally placed at the intersection of Cottonwood and Indian Streets to respect the existing residential form of the neighborhood. The one-story building makes use of the same architectural style and building materials as the two-story buildings you saw before. The senior building is U-shaped in design with unit entries oriented towards the center courtyard. The courtyard elevations are shown here. The design of the proposed project conforms to the development standards of the Residential 10 District and the city's municipal code. As you can see from the floor plans, the project will consist of a mix of 24 one-bedroom, one-bath units ranging in size from 624 to 628 square feet, 28 two-bedroom, one-bath units at 803 square feet, and 28 three-bedroom, two-bath units at 1,009 square feet, and finally, one two-bedroom, two-bath manager's unit at 1,006 square feet. The project has been designed to meet the required landscape standards and objectives set forth in the city's municipal code, chapter 9.17. The landscape elements of the project include a wide landscape setback on both Cottonwood and Indian Streets, parking lot landscaping, street trees, and landscape treatment around the perimeter of the site, the buildings, and outdoor recreation areas. The walls and fence for the project will consist of oversized stacked stone and masonry pilasters and undulating tubular steel fencing for visual interest along the street. An accent feature, including decorative elements of enhanced landscaping, will be located at the perimeter of the site at the northeast, at the corner of Cottonwood Avenue and Indian Street. The project will be requesting affordable housing incentives, which are allowed by the code. The proposed development will be an affordable housing project that will be rented to extremely low-income households, up to 30% of the area median income, and low-income households up to 60% of the area median income. All income restrictions will be offered. All income-restricted units will be offered at rents that do not exceed affordable rents as defined by the California Health and Safety Code. In addition, a total of 20 of the units will be reserved for senior citizen households. Per the city's density bonus program for affordable housing found in section 9.03.050, the project is eligible for a number of incentives and concessions in exchange for long-term affordability. These include the following. The project is eligible for a 25% density bonus. Therefore, the base density of 10 units per the acre is increased to 12.5 dwelling units per acre. The project as proposed is consistent with this density, being developed at a density of 11.93 dwelling units per acre. The city's density bonus program for affordable housing further allows for a parking reduction of 1/2 of space per affordable dwelling unit. The total affordable housing parking reduction, as mentioned earlier, is 40 parking spaces. The total required parking for this project is 118 spaces, which the project does provide. The developer has requested modified development standards consistent with the city's density bonus program for affordable housing. The applicant is requesting reduction in the private open space. This would be the patio space for each of the ground floor units from 150 square feet to 100 square feet. This would be consistent with the size of the patios required for second-story units. It would also not require any reduction in the overall open space landscape requirements for the project. Development impacts and park impact fee reductions. Consistent with the city's density bonus program, the applicant has also requested a reduction in the development impact fees and parkland impact mitigation fees collected for the project. The details of these incentives and the associated affordability requirements will be incorporated into a density bonus housing agreement between the owner and the city, for which the project has been conditioned to execute prior to issuance of any building permits. Quick moment on the review process. In accordance with the established procedures, the project's application materials were circulated for review by the appropriate city departments and divisions, as well as applicable outside agencies and entities, such as utilities and the tribes. The Maxim Development LLC prepared an initial study for the project in compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines and coordinated the preparation of technical studies as part of that analysis. The initial study examined the potential of the proposed project to have an impact on the environment. Project impacts will remain less than significant with implementation of mitigation measures associated with biological resources, cultural resources, noise, and tribal cultural resources. These mitigation measures have been included in the mitigation monitoring and reporting program before you tonight. Pursuant to that analysis, the City of Moreno Valley has determined that the proposed project will not have a significant effect on the environment with implementation of mitigation measures. Therefore, a mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring and reporting program have been prepared for the project and represent the city's independent judgment and analysis. Subsequent to preparation of the agenda, the city has received one call and one letter in opposition to the affordability aspect of the project. The letter which we received has been provided to you. It's from Tamara Fields and should be on the dais for your review. We also have a memorandum regarding condition number 86 that staff is recommending to be deleted. Staff recommends the condition be stricken regarding the CC&Rs as this is unnecessary since the project will be wholly owned by one single entity, and therefore the CC&Rs to control the relationships with multiple tenants or owners is not necessary in this case. You also have a memo to that effect in front of you. With that, I'll move on to staff's recommendations. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission take the following actions. First, staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve Resolution 2019-37 and thereby recommend that the City Council certify the initial study and mitigated negative declaration prepared for General Plan Amendment 19-0108, Change of Zone 19-109, Plot Plan 19-110 on file with the Community Development Department, incorporated herein by reference. Completed in compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act, and that the Planning Commission review and consider the information contained in the initial study, mitigated negative declaration, and that the document reflects the city's independent judgment and analysis. Attached hereto as Exhibit A. And also approve the mitigation monitoring and reporting program prepared for plot plan application 19-0110, attached hereto as Exhibit B. Further, staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve Resolution 2019-38 and thereby recommend that the City Council approve the General Plan Amendment 19-0108 based on the findings contained in the resolution and as shown in the attached Exhibit 8. Staff recommends the Planning Commission approve Resolution 2019-39 and thereby recommend that the City Council approve Change of Zone Application 19-0109 based on the findings contained in this resolution and as shown in the attached Exhibit A. And finally, staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve Resolution 19-40 and recommend that the City Council approve plot plan application 19-0110 based on the findings contained in the resolution and subject to the conditions of approval included in Attachment 8 with the deletion of condition of approval 86. That concludes staff's report. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you for the report. Well, now is our time as commissioners to ask questions of staff.
I didn't get the letter.
That's my fault.
Get the memo, but
We
no
only have
letter.
I have the letter at my desk if you guys would like it.
I might want to see what it says.
Sure. For those of you that haven't had a chance to fully go through it, the applicant was expressing their concern about the amount of affordable housing already being provided in the city of Moreno Valley, and suggested that the city not accept additional federal or state funding for more additional affordable housing. And so that was the basic point of the letter.
I have some questions while the letter's being passed around.
Yep,
Yep.
go for it.
Just for everybody's understanding, those that may be watching or in the audience that don't know, what is the Moreno Valley Housing Authority?
The Moreno Valley Housing Authority is, perhaps the attorney wants to.
Yeah, the Moreno Valley Housing Authority is an entirely independent and separate agency whose board is the same as the city council, but it manages its own funds, it sits as its own body, makes its own decisions independent of the city. I don't know, Marshall, do you want to expand on all the various activities you do with the Housing Authority? But one of their topics is they are a property owner of a number of parcels in the city as well.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman. Marshall Ironman, I'm Chief Financial Officer for the City of Moreno Valley. In most municipalities in California, previously there was redevelopment agencies. In 2012, the redevelopment agencies were dissolved. Part of the function of redevelopment was to build affordable housing. When that was dissolved, any of the properties that we had or funding of redevelopment were transferred into the newly formed Housing Authority. So the Housing Authority's sole purpose is to monitor previous affordable housing projects and to utilize the lands and funds available to develop new affordable housing projects. So the site that we have in question here, its sole purpose is to provide more additional affordable housing for the community and to meet much of the regional needs assessments for affordable housing within our jurisdiction.
So the property, the 9 acres, 10 acre, approximately 9 acres that are in consideration is currently owned by the city of Moreno, or the Housing Authority, quasi-city.
Yes.
Was city, now it's transferred into this Housing Authority.
Yes.
Okay. And so to go forward, was there a competitive process to seeking bids for to get a development partner on this?
So, really kind of following the dissolution of redevelopment, there's been less demand in the marketplace for affordable housing. We haven't seen too many developments coming into the community. What the city's done is we've proactively reached out to developers in other jurisdictions such as San Diego, Los Angeles, even some in Loma Linda, other jurisdictions that have built projects. We've had conversations with those developers, asked them to come in and basically we provided a list of the parcels that we had, the funding that we had available, put it out there for everybody to provide potential projects to the community. In this site, this is the only development that we received or proposed project for this site. This also kind of piggybacks with some of the funds that we have available from HUD under our NSP or Neighborhood Stabilization Program. Those funds are nearing their maturity that we need to invest into a project. So given the single demand in this, forward to present this one project. The City Council has already approved an ENA or an exclusive negotiation agreement with the developer for this site so that they could go through the due diligence and development planning stages. That kind of gives you a little background. The top portion that we talk about is parcel 2. One of the things that's working on this is the school district has expressed a desire or demand for additional parking. So that top sliver that you see coming off in conjunction with this development is a benefit to the school district and the community because it'll take those parked cars off the street and eliminate some of the other risk with pedestrian crossings and those items too.
The sliver, did I get this right? The sliver is going to be worked out with the school district somehow for
Correct.
use? Okay. So, and then, so the Housing Authority, so it has the property. So this isn't like a public works bid or like a surplusing of property. If a public agency is going to surplus property or something, has to advertise, it has to go through a formal process, an adoption of different things. I guess I never gone through this before, so I just want to kind of try to understand that.
The city attorney may add if he feels needed, but basically, when the city has surplus property, there are certain notification processes that they have to go through. When the housing authority is going through a development process, since it's essentially already defined for the need and the demand, it has a sole purpose to build affordable housing. So the city and the jurisdiction really go through different negotiations. We've gone through different RFP processes in the past. This developer actually was kind of our relationship with the city is they were selected on prior competitive bids for different sites. So we've had that relationship with them, and they've proven to be competitive in the marketplace for building our projects.
So what is the law audit? Is there a competitive requirement?
No, would not be subjected to the typical public works competitive bidding that you're thinking of in a different
No,
context.
I'm not thinking of that. I'm not thinking necessarily of like a public works contract. It just, when a deal, the city's going to enter into a development agreement, it's going to put up an asset to apparently achieve some kind of a affordable housing objective of the city. Just from a policy standpoint, is how do we know? How does the city understand that if it isn't an open process to solicit for development proposals, and you're just negotiating with one, how does the city know that they have the best potential? That's going to lead into my subsequent question. But anyhow,
Well, and if I may
Yeah.
interject on that,
Almost louder.
what we did, I want to say about 3 years ago, what the housing authority, or essentially the city council, did was we inventoried the parcels that were available from the housing authority. We looked at the funding that was coming in, because we do have federal funds that come in on an annual basis. We went through a study session. We essentially advertised. We went through that process to make sure that the development community as a whole knew exactly what we had. And so we've been in discussions, dialogues with multiple developers over a period of time. Many of them, because of the limited funding available, have specific sites that they look at, what leverage is best for them. Certain funding sources are more, they're better suited for something near a rail station or some other jurisdiction. So it's kind of an active negotiation that we have, and then as the city council goes through, part of that with the ENA processes, they walk through those questions to make sure that it's competitive. And later, when we come back with an actual development disposition agreement, they'll go through those terms to make sure that they're comfortable with that as well.
And I think it's important also to clearly identify that this is not city-owned property. We're saying that casually, but it's not. It's owned by the housing authority, which is a completely separate entity, and it is not property that the city had that it transferred to the housing authority. This property probably came from the redevelopment agency, which was in itself a completely independent agency, and there's certain restrictions on its use. So if you're saying, can this be opened up for a shopping center to come in and develop, the answer to that would be no. So it's limited. It has limited purpose of how it can be used.
so my next question is, how does the city set its impact? Well, first, maybe there's even a question before that. What impact fees are in question of being discounted 50% for this project, or being apparently negotiated?
Under, how do you want to, but under the city's adoption, so as we went through the resolution to adopt the current development impact fees, part of that resolution identifies that all development impact fees are discounted at 50% for affordable housing projects. Part of this in discounting the fees and what we do with different areas is when we pass along this project, they have questions here, but usually it's 45 to 55 years of affordable housing covenants. So we restrict the use, and we actively kind of manage and monitor that site during that whole period too. So they have limitations on what they can do, and that's kind of the trade-off is they're getting the benefit, we're getting the benefit of affordable housing units, they're getting the benefit of discounted fees, and we're an invested partner.
I understand it, but what are the impact fees that are being discounted? What development impact fees are there?
I believe
All of
it's
them.
all of them.
So like parks, roads, school fees,
Well, school fees is
separate from the house.
separate, but
So
yeah.
it's not the housing authority, but it's the city, what fees are being discounted? The housing authority fees or the city fees?
The city development impact fees as set forth in our code that are there, and there's ones for transportation, there's ones for, we've set
Fire,
aside
police,
fire, police,
parks,
whatever they are.
traffic signals,
Yeah, they're
intersections.
all discounted at 50% if you meet the criteria under our code.
Okay,
There's a
Okay.
list of, they have to meet,
okay. So I
the
guess
time
my,
of adoption.
and it just for everybody's education, how are impact fees set? What's the Prop 218 or what, how are those, how are impact fees determined? Isn't there a reasonable, the fee charge is established by the reasonable benefit received on a proportionate basis? And there's a whole Prop 218.
It's a little more complicated than
process, right? I
that,
mean,
but yeah.
In general, I mean,
So with impact fees, what is it? It's an AB 1600, so Assembly Bill 1600 that covers that Mitigation Fee Act. That sets around the procedures, and really it's a nexus or a benefit. So the simple theory that I always use is when you're looking at parklands, if you have a current ratio of three park acres per 1,000 population, you want to maintain that level. Development impact fees are to maintain the existing standard as new development occurs. So in this case, where a park fee is discounted 50% to bring in the affordable housing, some of the things that we do on the other side is we require on-site park facilities to make sure that they're not putting excess demand on other facilities.
okay.
And those fees they change and they're offset. There's credits, there's reimbursements, there's refunds, there's different ways that additional and future development can impact any particular project's fees. So it's,
Well, I guess I would, I don't know how detailed the city goes in establishing how many acreage and how much costs are set aside for parks, how much is set aside for roadway improvements and take care of potholes or whatever in the roadways, and whatever impact fees as that come along with I don't have any idea what all I'm not a developer, but if there's a discount for this project, I can tell you the parks, my grandkids in baseball, every park site is impacted. If you want to play soccer, you want to play baseball, you want to play softball, you want to play football, the school system is impacted. And here we're going to discount some X dollars that is not going to happen, is not going to come into. There's a basketball court and a little bit of reduced private open space on this project or whatever.
The way to, one thing to consider when you're thinking about this aspect of the project is that the city has to certify a housing element to the state, which explains how the city is going to provide their share of fair housing within the region. And one of the things that the city has to do is provide strategies and methods of providing or incentives for low and moderate income housing. And so these policies for these discounts and these concessions are enumerated in the code, and they're based on the policies and programs that we've told the city was going to adopt as part of its housing element in order to keep the jobs housing balance in line. And so, yes, you're right, there's some fees that will be denied to the city because of the affordability of these units, but that was something that the state is basically encouraged all cities to do, and Moreno Valley has done that as part of their housing element to ensure that there is a variety of income levels of housing being built within the state. So these aren't fees that a project coming in that was not going to be representing or providing the long-term affordable housing would be paying. And the fees are not different fees discounted at 50% and at 25%. The 50% and the 25% are dependent upon the level of affordability that the units are going to be. So the more affordable they are, the larger the discount. The less, if they're affordable to a higher income level, then the discount is also lower. And the intent is to try to offset the balance between what market rate housing would cost and what it would cost to provide these units at affordable rates.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to cross over, and the attorney can pop me around if I get past question and answer time versus deliberation time. But I'm not here to judge the value of the policy that the state says more affordable houses and you're gonna set municipal code to establish incentives and stuff. At the end of the day, maybe that's indeed the case, but for every dollar that the developer is paid to accommodate an objective for affordable housing, takes away dollars that otherwise would have gone to other city objectives of existing people that live here and want livability. And so in this instance here, we're incentivizing by adding density, adding demand on city services, and reducing the price that project is gonna pay. So maybe I'm deliberating now, but anyhow, another question is does the city have walkability, like this project is maybe 3/4 of a mile away from the shopping center at Alessandro and Alessandro or something like that, Indian and, but in walkability, in making this recommendation to drop off 40 parking spots, 40 parking spaces, these are 1, 2, 3-bedroom homes or units with senior citizen things. Probably these people are gonna need, I guess, first question is it doesn't make sense to reduce the amount of parking. I get it if that's an affordable, goes with the affordable municipal code, but it seems contrary because these people are gonna need to get somewhere and they're gonna have cars. So if you go down that path, what is the walkability standard? If we assume that there actually physically will not be 40 additional cars parked there.
I think the thinking behind the policy was not that that these projects would necessarily be more walkable, but that these projects, that the people within the projects would probably own vehicles at a lower number than families that were of higher means.
Is there factual data, statistics that prove that up, that for certain income, they have a bike and a car, or a bike and a scooter and a car, or, I mean, I do have some issues, because from a livability standpoint, Myrna Street is now gonna be where all those 40 cars that should have been in the parking lots are gonna be up and down these people's or all the curbside on Myrna Street.
Well, Myrna will be completely fenced off. There'll be no interaction between Myrna. They would have to walk all the way down and out to Cottonwood and back into the project. There'll be no interaction, pedestrian or vehicular-wise, onto Myrna. They're just completing Myrna to allow for a complete cul-de-sac where there was none that was built originally, and it would help to serve the needs of the adjacent neighborhood. The project is served by a bus stop at the corner of Cottonwood and Indian. That's going to allow for the residents here to take advantage of local transportation facilities. Beyond that, that's the incentive program that the city put together for affordable housing developers.
I'll defer my question time right now.
I have a couple questions. The affordable apartments, will that include utilities?
The calculation for affordability has to take those into account. So when they're looking at what fits in those ranges, the 50% average median income, those rental levels are prescribed. So it does take into account utilities.
Okay, and also the price point for the 1, 2,
When you're dealing with affordability covenants, it varies based on the number of occupants within each one. So for those units, it's really going to depend whether there's 1, 2, 3 individuals in there. If you're looking at a low-income unit, 4 people in it on 2-bedroom, you're talking about income a little less than $58,000. So the rent's prescribed. I'm sorry, I don't have the rent in front of me, but it would be based on that income. So.
thank you.
Any other questions?
Well, I was wondering, do you already have a list of people waiting for these apartments?
What typically happens is, following this process, when we go to City Council with our next step, simply set up a phone number and a line, and then they start reaching out to the developer. So the developer will start creating that interest list before anything moves forward.
Are they gonna be taking, this isn't like Section 8, right?
Is it?
There's-
Well, this is funded through our federal home dollars, through the NSP program, and then through vouchers. So the county is actually funding a component of home dollars as well, and some county vouchers.
So there will be, it's similar to Section 8 then, because the county usually gives vouchers, and they're called Section 8, because I have some rental properties, and that's usually how they do it. And they give a list of people that will accept those vouchers.
One thing that's unique with this is many times with a Section 8 voucher, you're dealing with like a single-family home. They're integrated into neighborhoods. What makes this unique in this project is having this, not just the clubhouse, the facilities, but actively managed on the site as well. And I know with all of our other affordable housing projects, the city has to do an annual monitoring to make sure that things are compliant, not only from a code compliance perspective, but also that certain services are being provided to the tenants. The grounds are being upkept and different components there.
Yeah, well, they also take apartments though, because I know people that have the vouchers. Okay.
I do have a couple more. I was just, so, how does the city validate that the rents stay low? I mean, so I heard you say something about this could be a 40, 50-year-long development.
So usually our covenants are, the affordability covenants run 45 to 55 years. We do an annual monitoring. So we actually work with a third-party audit firm along with our staff. We go in on an annual basis and we go and actually review the files. We may spot check, pull some of the individual tenants' files. We're validating how many occupants are in there, what their income is, what they'd qualify under, and then every year from HUD we get different affordability. So they tell us under 50% AMI what the rent can be that year based on that size of household or how much money they can make. So those income levels will dictate what the units can charge in rent as well.
So who, does HUD or some federal or state money trickle down to pay for annual audits or staff time to go and make sure this is all the rules and regs of this development agreements are complied with?
Through the Housing Authority funds those annual administration costs. So part of the Housing Authority is to build the projects, and the other part is to kind of monitor and see what's going on with those projects.
How viable is the Housing Authority to stay in existence?
With the Housing Authority, because it was formed following the dissolution of the redevelopment agencies, the state took away the funding from a lot of the monitoring, but with some of the funds that we have, and with all these projects, we end up getting money back over a period of time as they refinance it in the future and do different things. So we tend to get money every year. From a viability standpoint, we're pretty viable to continue to maintain through these durations.
And so the money that's the impact fees that aren't collected, who pays for it? There is going to be less. The impact fees have a nexus. There's a nexus. Something says X amount of EDUs will pay X amount of dollars to build X facilities or improvements or something like that. Where does the money that this project doesn't pay, where does that come from?
Well, when we go through the development impact fee study, that mitigation fee study, and we're designing the fees in the beginning, some of that analysis is to look at future development and what's going to occur. With that, what you find is you get deficiencies that have to be addressed by other funds. Many times that shortfall is resolved through grants. So if you receive less park development impact fees on this, but the city is able to go out and get a couple $1 million to fund new trails, that's really where they're subsidizing that shortfall. The other side of the equation, though, is as we discount fees and we do other things for the project, that allows the project itself to acquire more money from the state, which saves the city from having to fund this development. So when they go for certain tax credits or other funding, those entities look at how much money has been contributed by the city or the housing authority. Based on that, it makes it more competitive and eligible for more money to come in from the state. So again, since we have our certain housing requirements that we have to build a number of affordable housing units, we need that, so we're not utilizing general fund dollars or any other funding.
Chair, if I might add, it might be helpful to understand that the density bonus has been in place since 1999. So that benefit has always been in place. So every DIF study since that time has incorporated the fact that there will be some 50% or less reductions in fees for some of that development as planned. So it's not an individual project coming along and sucking away dollars that were expected to be there. They were not expected to be there because there's always going to be a certain percentage of low and moderate income family housing that will be developed on an annual basis. And those studies that you mentioned earlier, how in-depth they are for each area, staff gets very in-depth with it. There's private consultants that are hired that study these areas when we're developing those fees, and that's all taken into consideration.
Other comments or questions of staff?
Chair. I just got taught about the program and the parking. So, because of the program, having the program affordable housing, it allows for a reduction of parking spaces. It's because of the program that was established in 1999. It allows those benefits, those incentives to be in place now with this project.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right. I learned that one. Okay. My other one is on page 47, and I'm looking at the photos that were taken, and I'm sure, I don't know if it's the applicant or the city. Are we going to do anything, because you mentioned buffing between the wooden fence that's way back there and the project? Is there a buffing, or are we going to put masonry walls back there up against the fence or something like that on page 47? That's, I mean,
The applicant.
Yes. There will be a block wall along the east property line between the residential, existing single-family residential homes and the project. Also, you can kind of see in this exhibit that's on the screen, there's a landscape buffer all along that edge. There are no units, rental units, actually on the east side of the driveway loop. All the rental units are on the west side of the driveway loop. So you have the basketball court, the landscaping that's around it, the tot lot, the retention area for drainage. So all these things that are
will
going to
be
be
on that side of
landscaped
the project.
will be on that side of the project.
Okay.
Yes.
So between the masonry wall and the fence, that back is going to be all landscaped.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, we estimate roughly the units are about a third of the way over. So
Okay.
the eastern third is the least utilized.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
No, I was just curiosity. I overheard you hear something about annual audits. A person could become eligible to live in the property. During that time, during the annual audits, would a person also be able to be unqualified for that?
Yes, we look at both aspects. So when we look at these, we're going in and examining the income files to see where they fit within the equation, if they still qualify for those projects, and then we work with the project managers on any issues that have to be resolved one way or another.
Is that at a random selection, or is that
Usually it's a sampling, and then every year we sample different ones, so it'll rotate through. So we don't look at 100% of the files, but we do about a 10% sampling on those units.
Thank you.
Hey, one more question. Since the commissioner brought it up. So if the renter is over by $1, because now you're ordering and everything is based on income, what happens to the tenant that's living there?
It depends, and so
spend that
there's
dollar.
situations like let's say they're in a 30% AMI unit, so they're at the bottom income, and their income level has changed. That unit would now be designated a higher, like a 50% AMI unit, and so they would stay there. Their rent would be adjusted based on their increased income, and they'd have to rotate which units are 30%, 50%.
So that's for the 60 regular apartments, and then you have 20 for seniors.
Yes.
Does that apply also to the seniors?
It does, and typically when you're looking at seniors, many times in this area, they're fixed income. So as their income's going up because of cost inflators that might be in there, the rent amounts are going up, or the qualifying income levels are going up as well on those same inflators. Remember, if they're getting Social Security from the federal government's telling us what that income range should be, and usually it's correlated with those.
So hopefully everything works out and nobody gets put out.
And HUD has controls, because the goal is that when somebody goes into an affordable housing project, you don't want to kick them out. And so when you're dealing with some of those anomalies, there's a frame or a time window that's expansive enough that allows things to get resolved. The goal never is to put somebody back out on the street. It's to help them move up and move forward and provide affordable housing for them.
Perhaps they might get higher income, get a better job, and not need affordable housing. Any other questions of staff? Okay, thank you. All right, I think do we have any public comments about this issue?
Yes, sir, we have 4. Starting with Daryl Barnes.
Hello. Oh, hi. I'm not really sure how this process goes. I'm here on behalf of my 81-year-old mother who wouldn't have been able to sit through this process. But I don't know where that map is, but the house that's sitting on the corner right here. And my mother's been in that house since 1975. That neighborhood has been very peaceful, very safe, and very quiet. Now, I know 5 months ago there were men out there that were marking the territory and everything, and spoke briefly about them. So I kind of knew that something was going to happen over there, but I didn't really know what. Now, I'm assuming there's going to be pole lights at that basketball court, which could possibly shine light down into all of those houses down there in the back. I don't understand the purpose of the cul-de-sac. And to be perfectly honest with you, the thing that's really sticking out to me is that the gentleman keeps using the word projects. And I'm not taking that in reference to it being a project. I'm taking it as a reference to it being the projects. Now, I am all for, there being somewhat of a need. But in my honest opinion, if I could be candid with you, and we can call a spade, that property, I guarantee, I would put money on it. That property, within 5 to 10 years, is just going to be a Section 8 property. With maybe not with the 20 units. And my experience with Section 8 and having, I said, I grew up out here. I'm 57 years old now. And I have watched the decline of this city. And there are streets, Elm Court, Pepper Court, a few others that I could name that are, the affordable housing. And you couldn't pay me to go down those streets even in the daytime. And like I said, my mother's 81 years old. I don't know how far the distance is going to be. The gentleman mentioned that there was going to be a block wall, but how close is that block wall going to be to my mom's back fence? And how easy would it be for someone to jump over the fence to get to my mother's house? Because this house man that had lived there a little bit longer than us. Not too long ago, someone jumped over his house and broke into his house and robbed him. You know, so there's concerns about that. You know, I would like to hear, you know, like I said, what is the distance going to be? You know, and unfortunately, you know, it's good that the apartments are that far over, but you've got all that recreational area and all that noise and all that stuff right there running along the back of the houses. You know, I don't know. Okay, well, oh, I didn't see that. Anyway, I don't approve of it, obviously. I just don't. Yeah.
David Connor.
Is there an opportunity to ask a question? Oh. Done. Okay,
When the
good enough.
speakers are done, you certainly go back to asking questions.
Hello. I just have a few questions and a few concerns. Most, just like Daryl, the fence line that's going to be where the block wall is on the east side of the property, is that going to be directly on the fence line, or is there going to be a buffer, which is going to create probably some transient activity? If we could get an answer on that, that would be great. The cul-de-sac. I'm assuming that the cul-de-sac on Moreno is going to be used probably for emergency vehicle turnaround, because otherwise it's going to end up as a parking space for most of these people there. And I'm sure you mentioned that there's going to be a fence that's going to border that, and there's going to be no pedestrian activity there. Is there a way to guarantee that? And what is it going to be? Is there going to be, I'm assuming that there'll probably be some type of gate in that fence that could at some point be opened or broke into or have some access to. You mentioned that there was going to be 118 parking spaces. Does that include that sliver that's going to be, that the school district is going to donate or work out? Is that inclusive of that, or is that sliver going to be extra parking to accommodate? Because it's going to be excessive parking. We all know that. Is there going to be parking allowed on Cottonwood? Or is it going to be a no parking zone? Because there is that extra little bit of, that street's a little bit wider. 20% of it's going to be dedicated to senior housing. Has there been a demographic study that we don't need more senior housing than that? And is there a need, is there already occupancy available for the low income housing? Is there an absolute need for that? And which one's stronger? Like is I could see, I don't know, obviously I haven't done a study on it, but I could see that there's probably a need for senior housing more so than maybe the low income, because there is such an abundance of low income housing in the city of Moreno Valley. My biggest question is that you opened it up to bid, there's one developer, there's no competition. Is there an arm's length transaction between everybody involved? I'm just curious about that, because there has to be an incentive for the developer to come in. I'm sure multiple developers would bid on a project like that. And why is there only one? That's another question that I have that maybe we can get answered. And then how long, if this is approved, how long before it breaks ground? Are we looking at a year, 2 years, 6 months? Just out of curiosity on that as well. And then on the portion that's going to border the school, is that going to be a block wall or an iron fence as well? I'm just curious about that, because there is a lot of activity that comes through that field sometimes, and it would be better to obviously have some type of border there as well. So I don't know who can answer those questions, but maybe we can get them answered.
Good evening. My name is Carla Gomez. I'd like to thank you all for letting me speak today. So I've been living in Moreno Valley since 1996. My parents bought the house on Joanne Street, that street right behind you guys, where they're trying to build these apartments. I am a college student and I missed class today to be here. And I am going to Moreno Valley College, and I am going to be applying soon to the dental hygiene program at Moreno Valley College. So I've seen this small town grow into the bustling city it is, and I definitely appreciate all the great things that have been going on. The Moreno Valley Learns project and the repavement of all of the streets, the schools updating, like my high school, Moreno Valley High School, a lot of updates. But I wish nothing but the best for this city, and I hope to one day become a homeowner in this city. But in regards to the home ownership, there are a lot of things that I'm concerned about. I did do some calling and some investigation myself, and there are about just 3 affordable housing apartments just around not even a mile from my house, from this area. I did call them, and they all do have a wait list of about 3 years. So I see the need. But then I also called other apartments that are not low income or affordable housing, as they call it, and there is no wait, there is immediate a vacancy. So I certainly understand, well, actually I don't understand why they're trying to make more apartments, and if we all who live here see all the houses they're making, and it's just a concern. They did build the Cottonwood apartments on Heacock and Cottonwood, and as we all see, I see cars there doing burnouts. There's never good activity. That area itself, I know some of my neighbors are speaking about the parking. The parking does overflow to Cottonwood. So I just wanted to have some questions about that, and with all the giant corporations coming to Moreno Valley is becoming a mecca, and they're growing and they're investing with us, and the opportunities are pouring in. I don't understand why I want to continue building affordable housing if it's apparent that there are homes and apartments as well as jobs available for the working resident. Allowing these apartments to be built in our community is not allowing it to become the safe working class community that I believe this neighborhood is and it can be. So thank you.
Gerald Didio? Is that close? Sorry if I botched that up.
I have property on the corner, the southwest corner. I have no objectives of it, and in fact, I think that people need faith and opportunity to get into a place to get started. And with this being new, you'll find that people will work hard to be there because they have to. If they miss their payments or whatever, I mean, I'm sure there has to be requirements, and I just see it as an added plus. Not to mention looking at the landscapes and how the apartments look. I mean, looks like Irvine to me. So I'm for it, and appreciate the City of Moreno Valley looking at projects like this because we need them. There's, too many people are homeless, and they need to find a way of working and then being able to stay in a place. And that's all I have to say about that.
Okay, is that the last of public? Okay.
Yes, sir.
There are no I always forget, do I need to close the public is this a?
You would have rebuttal of the applicant, if any, at this point.
Okay. Well, if there's no, well, we have, okay, yeah, if the applicant would like to come up and speak to any of the comments?
Yes, good evening, and thank you, Chair Sims and Planning Commissioners. My name is David Slauson. I'm with Winchester Associates. We're the project engineer. And with us tonight is the project developer and Bill Atkins, the project architect. And we will attempt to address as many of these questions as we can. Jim Jernigan's the project developer. Some of the issues, well, one of the issues was regarding the cul-de-sac. And yes, the neighbors were correct. It's for trash trucks, fire engines, public safety. There's no other real need for it there except for that to make it more accessible for emergency vehicles. So that was a request of the cities. There's no proposed lighting at the basketball court. There's only security lighting throughout the complex, which is required under the code. There's a proposed 6-foot wall along the east boundary of the project, and that is will help as a sound attenuation, as well as in terms of construction. It would be up to the it would be proposed to be right on the property line. So depending on where the fences are that are existing, there's one block wall on the very south end. The rest of the homeowners have fencing on the back. Usually what happens from a practical standpoint is the contractor asks those people, do you want your fence still there? Or do you want to just us to remove your fence and we'll put the wall up right at the same location? The parking spaces, the 118 is wholly within this project. It's not including the proposed parking within the future school district property. In terms of parking on Cottonwood, I don't believe that's allowed. That's okay, so that would not be allowed. So, and likewise, Indian's the same width, so that would not be allowed either. I would estimate for groundbreaking, I think 6 months or a little later. June. And the school fencing, the fencing between the school property and this project is proposed as tubular steel. That's correct. And that would be right on the proposed property line. With no access gates or anything else. Is there anything else we can?
So, Chairman and Commissioners, my name is Jim Jernigan. I've heard a lot of comments tonight, and heard a couple of times that we have too much affordable housing, and I beg to differ. I've lived in Moreno Valley since 1972. I grew up right next door to this project that we're proposing. I rode my bike by it when I was a freshman and sophomore in high school. So I lived in that neighborhood for 19 years. I'm very concerned about what goes into my city. I've been doing affordable housing exclusively for 25 years. I've built over 500 units in the city. We have not had a new affordable housing project in Moreno Valley since 2013. And if people can tell me that in those last 6 years, we haven't had any people that have need for affordable housing, I would respectfully disagree. So I would like to, if I can get any moisture in my mouth here, I'd like to answer some of the questions and direct Mr. Barnes. I appreciate your concerns, I really do. I think your mother's would be the one in the south, is that correct? Okay. And as Dave said, we want to talk to every one of those people in those homes, and do they want us to build a wall, replace their wall? We're very cooperative. There's only 7 homes right there. We'll work with people any way we can. Historically, we don't have any.
You need to address the.
I'm sorry. I was talking to Mr. Barnes. Sorry. Historically, the parking has not been an issue with the reduction by half a unit or half a space per unit. Typically, we do not see as many cars in the word project, and I'm glad someone brought that up. My grandmother grew up in the projects, never owned a home, so it has a negative connotation. But when I refer to projects, it's just to identify it, not to use any negative connotation, and I'm especially sensitive to that. The fee waivers, I think we talked about the fee waivers. I think the Nexus study that's done does actually address those reductions. They've been around since 1999. Every affordable housing project in Moreno Valley has been afforded those. Dave already mentioned there'll be no lights because we're very, very sensitive to those neighbors. We made sure we designed this that there'll be no late activities at night at all over there. And we will have restricted hours at the pool. There was some talk about the oversight, and excuse me for a minute, I'm gonna get a water so I can talk. There is an annual audit done by a national CPA firm. Let me back up a little bit. Affordable housing is very difficult to do. We use various sources of funds to get it done. We have city funds, we have county funds, we have state funds, we have federal funds. All of those providers of monies give us oversight. We actually have the state that allocates the tax credits that we use as one of our primary sources of funds, that comes out and does file audits every year. So we're very heavily regulated, we have a lot of oversight. And it's just getting to, I've been working on this project or the previous projects for almost 7 years to get the next project off the ground. That's how hard it is to get one project done in Moreno Valley. And it's taken concerted effort from staff members, from all these other levels of government that are putting these different pieces of the puzzle together. And right now we're at the point where we can see this done, and we can do it right. We can make sure that the people in this neighborhood are proud of this. The city, the commissioners and the city council is proud of this. And like I said, I'm a resident of the city. I'm not going anywhere. I've stayed here, and I've heard bad things about Moreno Valley, and I get offended by it. So I'm not an out-of-towner that's gonna come in here and build anything that you're not proud of. My last project is over on Hemlock. We do not have parking on the street. We don't have, we're very highly regulated by our management company. Our house rules are thicker than what used to be a phone book. So I'm sure I'm bouncing all over the place here. We talked about the gate. I would rather not have the cul-de-sac, but it was already determined that it was part of the previous parcel map, so we acquiesced to putting that in. Senior need. There was a question by Mr. Connor. The city hasn't had a new senior project in probably 15 years. And council directed me to try and do senior. Well, the funding that we use does not lend itself well to do a full senior project. We would just continually just put in applications, and basically we'd be looking at pictures for the next 10 years and never build it. But by integrating and making this an intergenerational project, we're able to get 20 units in this 80-unit project to serve 62 years of age and older tenants. So the question was asked for our rents. Our rents will range between $400 and $900 a month, depending on your income level. I think I've bounced around enough. Is there any questions that maybe I did not answer, that anybody brought up?
I had one of the questions is on the access on the cul-de-sac. How is that
It'll be a tubular fence around it. Only people on the other side can work in. We can't get out. No one can get in. So it'll be a 6 foot.
Pedestrian gate. Or
No
nothing
pedestrian
like
gate.
Okay. Any
Management.
We have a
Very important.
Absolutely.
Okay, because that's the key of the project, is having somebody on the premises during their shift. Is that a 24-hour management, or is that a...
I have an on-site manager and on-site maintenance person that live obviously on site.
So you're going to have a maintenance person also living on the property, and the manager, okay? Any security during the...
We haven't had to. We will do it if it's needed. We will put cameras. I know you're a big proponent of cameras.
Very much.
And I will have cameras in this this development.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions? Oh, Robert.
The 6 foot wall. I know that throughout Moreno Valley we have, I don't even know what the height of the wall is, but there are people that have added really tacky lattice work on top of the walls. And obviously those, the people didn't feel like they had privacy within their lot. And I was wondering if there was anything that you would consider doing, like maybe adding another course.
What we could do is,
Because
what we
I
did
know
at Hemlock.
it was talked about once.
I think a better suggestion might be recurved steel, maybe a 2 foot recurved steel on the top of that. That's something we did on Hemlock, on where we abutted residential. So you get an extra 2 feet of height. I don't know if that how that falls in, Jerry. I don't know if that's something that, and Sean, is it? That was conditioned on me on my last development, so I don't know if that's something that would make the homeowners feel more secure.
That would make it look like. Well, that's why I was thinking just add another course, add another course of block or whatever that they're going to do. That would tacky.
Well, and also, when we do our finished grade, we're going to be at a lower level, finished grade level than the neighbors. So they'll get a little, that 6-foot fence will be a little higher just by virtue of the difference in the elevation. But I'd be willing to put the recurve steel. I have no problem with doing that. Whatever, we have these 7 homes. I want them to feel comfortable. We designed this with that in mind. It didn't just fall on the piece of paper like this. Bill and I spent countless hours on here. I told him this was my neighborhood. I wanted to make sure that we were as least impactful as possible.
Thank you.
Any questions?
One more.
One more.
One more. So from the masonry wall to the wooden fence, what's the distance? 20, 40, 50 feet?
Oh, no.
What is?
We're gonna put it right on the property line.
On the property
I'm not sure, it's not been surveyed. I don't know where those fences sit on their property line, but if it's a foot, we'll have to put a fence. We'll do something to make sure there's not going to be a gap between there.
So,
And
right.
hopefully we can work out with all these homeowners to put in a new fence for them and integrate it with their.
So that's what I wanted to hear. I want to make sure that it's not going to become an alley where people are going to go and hang out and disturb the homeowners on the other end.
No, sir.
Okay, so the rest you have to work out with them. Thank you.
That was my concern. I think Mr. Barnes mentioned something about buffer areas. You usually put a wall up, and then there's a little bit of area, maybe some shrubs, and it just invites people to say, this is where I can hang out and hide. I grew up in that area as well since 71. My mother lives on Maryland. I know Mr. Barnes and Greg and his mom and Jay McLeod and everybody that lived in that area.
Greg was 2 years ahead of me in school.
Yeah. So that's what I'm concerned with. That it looks like a great project. It just want to be concerned with some of the things that can go along. And I know the area very well. For instance, the fencing around the pool. Is there going to be a showers at the pool? I know one of the problems with apartment complexes in an area like that is people will come in from the street, vagrants, to use the shower at the pool.
Yeah, we have a restricted entry. It's a gated community.
Okay, and then also people coming over into to use the basketball courts.
But we're not putting lights up because we recognize that would be a problem and it would be a noise issue.
Yeah, I think it's gonna draw people right away. As soon as they know the pool is there and the basketball courts, people can come. So my main concern is this houses, and I want to say that's to the east.
That is
right?
to the east, correct.
Right, okay, to the east, is that those neighbors are comfortable and whatever you can do to help the neighbors there to the east.
And I'm accessible. I'm here in town.
Okay. Thank you.
Good. All right. Good, Bill. All right. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's it on the public comment, so we can close that? Do I need to close the public comment?
Yep.
All right. Well, then, the public comments is closed officially. And we are now deliberating.
I'll throw it out there. I think that a wonderful community is one that has a balance of people and housing and restaurants. It does show that we do have a need for affordable housing. If there is a wait list of 3 to 4 years on existing affordable housing, it is needed here. What impressed me about this project, there's a real dignity to the design. I don't know if I can word it any other way. It doesn't look cheap. It doesn't look like this is cheap housing, we're throwing it up. It's well designed from the elevations. It looks like a lot of the other developments in the area. So I think that also brings a dignity to the people that live there, even though they're paying less money. And I applaud someone that will design something as lovely as that for affordable housing. And I like the intergenerational aspect of it because we know we need the senior housing. We can just look around the room. I'm not saying anything about all of us sitting here, but we're all aging, and we've got to have housing affordable for people, especially on Social Security. I'm not pointing at you. So I find this project, to me, I know there's a lot of issues about the reduction of the fees and all of that, but I also see that there is a need here, and I think this beautifully sits a growing community with the look of it and the placement of it and the well thought out design of it. So I am going to support it.
Anybody else?
Yeah, when he said that he did the development there on, I believe he said Hemlock, I know what that development is. I go by there all the time because I go to Walgreens to get my mother's prescriptions. And I didn't know that it was affordable housing because they're beautiful. They look so nice. It almost looks out of place in that area. It is so nice. Somebody had mentioned it to me years ago, and I really didn't think it was affordable housing. I actually thought it was the ones that were further up because they look shabby, to be honest with you. And I believe they're condominiums. I believe people actually own them. But knowing how that project looks, and if this is even going to rival, and I believe it's going to surpass that one because that one is actually small development there on both sides. But it's a really nice place. I mean, I would be proud to live there. I really would because it's that nice and quiet, and I never really see anything happening there. So I'm all for it. I believe there is a big need with the housing that we do have. People are just screaming about the rents, how high they are. You see it all the time. They put out there, you know, if they can find a house for $1,600 a month, a 3-bedroom, they'll take it. So I'm all for it because I've seen that other development and I know what kind of work he does. So I think it's going to be a class act for that area too. I really do. It's going to be an asset.
Well, I don't have anything at issue with the project. I think it's a well-designed project. In fact, I do applaud how you move the apartments. The apartments are moved further to the west. They provide the buffer, so that should address noise and lighting and such between the interface between the houses. Mine's more of a philosophical thing. It's just for every dollar that we shift and we say we're going to spend money for this, it's a zero-sum game. The money is coming from somewhere to make this project affordable for this. This is going to come out of our taxes. It's going to come out of utility tax. It's going to come out of income tax, state, whatever. I have a fundamental problem with that because the project is made affordable through efforts of everyone sitting here that gets a paycheck and is paying for it. So it just, when we approve things like this, if it gets approved, which I assume it will, but it's a zero-sum game. The money comes from somewhere. No matter what anybody wants to say, money is coming from somewhere to pay for this. So, hey.
With that said, I believe there's nothing free. So, but I do appreciate the staff, how they go out and search for funding through other projects to make up for some of the loss on this project. So that's a good thing that they don't sit around and worry about it. They just go out and do what they need to do. I'm glad to hear that. To the resident that mentioned projects, I lived in the projects in New York City for 21 years, the Washington projects. There were 14 stories high and 8 apartments on every floor. I know what the projects are. I lived in them. This is nowhere near a project. Projects. These are apartment houses that look like condominiums. I mean, believe it or not, affordable housing takes care of those that have a need more than the person that has to buy a $500,000 house. I mean, it's pretty, this project. They have an opportunity to get back some of their pride, you know, and their integrity when they move into a complex like this. They invite their family, they invite friends to come and look at it to see what the government and us that pay into the system will have done for them. So I thank Moreno Valley that takes part of helping to solve a problem. We are just a little bit of what many do, but I'm glad it is Moreno Valley. I love the manager building, where he or she has the authority to do things for the tenants and the seniors. I like that. I like where there's availability where the fire trucks can go in, ambulance, delivery trucks, all that is in this plan. Okay? I got a bunch of things here, but when I hear the word seniors, the first thing that comes to me when I look at the 148 conditions, I look for the fire department. I look for the fire marshal. What is their role in this complex? Because we're talking about seniors, the jewels of the city. That's the conversation of tonight. They are the jewels of the city. How are we protecting them? And what are we offering them? Because they gave to us. And hopefully when we get older, as she mentioned, we'll give to others. And that's how the life goes around. The cycle goes around. So I'm glad there are 13 items in the fire department thing, and I looked at them all. And I'm grateful for the fire department being involved, because it's important to know if something happens, they'll be able to get into the building, on the complex, and take care of the emergency. My favorite one, as always, is the knock box system. So if they can't get a hold of the manager, they have availability to be able to go in and take care of the problem. See, I look out for the safety of the seniors and the 60 apartments that people are going to live in. That's important to me when I give my vote, because I want to make sure when I go to bed at night, these people are taken care of. And I'm grateful for that. Now, again, I know that maybe we're giving up a couple of bucks, but I like number 200 on page 202. My last one is an endorsement fund. Cover future maintenance costs for new neighborhood parks. So you give a little, you get a little. What's important is that we help those that need our help, and that's what this affordable housing is all about, helping those that need our help today.
Any other comments, deliberations? Mr. Harris.
Yes. I know that this is going to cost some tax dollars, but can I ask Marshall a question now? I think this program is mandated by the state of California, that we have to do something like this. So it's not really place.
If I may, a couple things that we have to deal with is the regional needs housing, our regional needs housing assessment. So there are a certain number of units that have to be built. Those numbers are being looked at currently. Our new governor in the state is looking at expanding the number of affordable housing units that most jurisdictions are going to have to build. So this is something that's on the forefront. One of the things too to point out is the way that the state's been leaning is if agencies are not building affordable housing units, they'll start penalizing them financially for not building those units. So this puts us ahead of the curve to start proactively building units. And as Mr. Jernigan has mentioned, since I've been working with the Housing Authority, we have not, I think we've built 8 units with Habitat for Humanity since 2013. So there is a big need in the community. We need to get ahead of the curve and start meeting the demands of the state as they're wanting more and more affordable housing units throughout all cities.
One thing I do like the project. I think it's great. And one thing I do like about this, the developer and the architect and engineer are all local people. and they've done a lot of good work for Moreno Valley over the years, and I think we need to support this. And the one thing always when I write my check, the IRS or state or whoever it is, or the city, at least we know where the money's going. Otherwise, it's tax. I always say when I write my check, the stuff's gone before my signature even gets dry. And at least we'll see something here for our money. And I really like that part of it, because and all of us pay a fair amount of taxes, some more than others, but I do like to see our tax dollars going towards this, believe me. And I'm going to vote for it. I like the project. Okay?
Ray, I think with that, I think you just turned me too.
Did I?
Wait a minute, let me get my wallet out here. I gotta throw $1 in. All right, are we, are we done? Are we quite through with the deliberations? All right, we're ready for a motion then. And whoever's making a motion, please remember there's something about this condition 86 on, which one is it on the, which case was, which one of these is?
Resolution 40.
Yeah, the condition 40, but which on, which?
The final resolution,
Okay, the final
2040.
resolution, so D1. Okay, entertaining a motion.
Okay, I make a motion that we approve resolution number 2019-37, 2019-38, 2019-39, 2019-40, and follow the memorandum that we received. The Planning and Land Development Condition, recommend the approval number 86 to be deleted. Is that okay?
Sufficient, yes.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a first and second. Please vote. Uh-oh.
Something's screwed up. I don't know how we get that
You could
straightened
vote
out.
twice on mine. No, I
Okay,
don't know.
well,
His is.
my screen's jacked, so. What happened here?
So we may have to roll call it.
Yeah,
Let's do a roll call vote.
sorry about that.
Commissioner Brugaris,
Yes.
Commissioner Stephen,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner DeJournette,
Yes.
Commissioner Corsick,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Baker,
Yes.
Chairperson Sims.
Yes. All right, so we have, it's passed. Do we have staff wrap up?
The recommendation of the Planning Commission will be carried forward to the City Council for final action.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to item number 2. Oh, good luck on your project. Oh, we have a request for a 10-minute break, so we'll adjourn now for 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Thanks. It become we're back in session. We're on to item number 2 tonight, which is a conditional use permit for a new banquet facility located at 23750 Alessandro Boulevard, Suites L107 through L112 within an existing commercial center. Can we have a staff report?
This item will be presented by Planner Claudia Manrique.
Evening, Chair and Commissioners. Tonight we have a conditional use permit, or a CUP, for a new banquet facility, which will be 6718 square feet in size, and it's located at 23750 Alessandro. Site plan. It's on the north side of Alessandro, and the existing shopping center is Alessandro Plaza. This banquet hall will have social events such as weddings, receptions, and meetings, and will hold up to 200 guests per event. The applicant has indicated that there will be no alcohol sales or beverage or food preparation at this facility. The event will be providing food services through outdoor vendors. The sales of alcohol beverages at this facility would require a modification to the CUP. And this is also includes a review of the alcohol beverage control and the Moreno Valley Police Department. The site is zoned neighborhood commercial. To the north is some residential R5. To the south is some undeveloped business park mixed use. The U.S. Post Office is to the west of the building. And on the site, you can see the yellow diamond indicates where the suites are located on the project site. There will be no changes to the exterior of the building. The parking on the site is provided by 610 parking spaces. There was a parking study provided by the applicant, which noticed us that there was plenty of parking on the site for this use and for all the uses currently on the site. Again, this is going into an existing tenant space, and therefore under CEQA, it's exempt under existing facilities, which is section 15301, class 1. The project was notified by published in the newspaper, the Press Enterprise, as well as mailing notices and posted on the project site itself. As of tonight, I have received no comments regarding the project. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve Resolution 2019-34 and thereby recommend that the city, not say city council, sorry, it'd be Planning Commission, certify that the project is exempt under CEQA as an existing facility and approve PIN 190181 conditional use permit, and which is subject to the attached conditions of approval. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions of staff on this item?
I have one, sir.
On page 242, special conditions, number 13. The rear door of the facility will remain closed during the hours of operation. So I looked at the diagram that was given to us, and I looked at all the exits being up front. And there's only two way in the back. The word closed, does that mean locked or just closed where no one can come in from the outside in?
The doors will not be locked. They'll meet all the code requirements.
Okay.
The reason why we want them closed is to keep any disturbance and not have any noise.
Uninvitees coming in.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that
Also
that's that was
to keep
clear.
that, but really to keep the noise level down.
Right, because again, I was counting all the X's up front, and then I looked at the ones in the back, and I just wanted to make that clear to myself and the public that are listening, that those doors will be closed but unlocked. In case of emergency, you can go out, okay? Thank you.
Any other questions of staff?
Just because it states that there'll be no sale of alcoholic beverages on the facility as part of the approval, does that mean they're never going to sell alcohol there, or?
Sell alcohol, it would require the CUP to be amended, and they would need to file paperwork through the ABC. And then when the paperwork is then received by us, it also gets reviewed by the police department.
Well, I don't mean that they're constantly going to be selling alcohol, but at some time, let's see if somebody has a venue there, I'm sure they're going to, no?
No, they would have to do they would have to amend this conditional use permit in order to allow for them to operate with the sale of alcohol at the facility. This is.
It just seems a little strange to me that they're having such a big banquet hall and.
It's actually pretty common.
Really?
It is. I've worked on a number of these over the years. It's
Not with my
actually fairly
friends and
common.
family.
Well, that's what I was going to ask: is can they bring alcohol
Yeah,
and not sell it?
Renters bring alcohol, exactly. Can renters bring alcohol with them and not for sale and consume it on the property?
Like an open bar thing. Here we go. It's just free.
Not aware of any restrictions against that. I think the key word here, as far as state liquor laws are concerned, is sale of alcohol.
So it can be free?
It's a BYOB party.
I don't know, I don't get it. It just seems strange to have a facility that large.
Same with food. They're not prepping food on the premises, but that doesn't mean that a caterer
Having
can't
it
come in and
catered.
bring food, right?
Any other questions to staff?
I do. Can they not just get a special permit, a one-time permit to sell alcohol? I know at several places I worked at that were large organizations, we would rent rooms. And to do some of our events, we would go to ABC and get a special permit for that night. So they should be able to do that.
There are ways in which to do that. There's also ways to do it through, as Paul was stating, through the caterers. Some caterers can do licensing as well, but it's not something that the facility itself can directly offer.
Would there be special conditions in the event that alcohol was brought to an event and consumed on the premises? In particular, any conditions or requirements would be those of ABC. They would not be from the city itself, unless it was part of a special event permit of some sort, where that would then be mandated by the city. But I don't see an opportunity where that would no
occur.
responsibility for the property owner or or
Again,
consumption of alcohol on the premises during an event.
Again, it's regulated through the ABC licenses. It would be the licensee holder who would be responsible for doing the safe service and implementing all of the standards of ABC, checking IDs and the like.
I have one question, sir. To add a little bit to the commissioner's thought, if the renter decides to get an ABC license, gets approved, brings alcohol, does they require to have a security guard on the premises while there's alcohol and minors in the building?
Well, if they obtained an ABC license, they would still need to return to this body for a modification of their CUP, and those issues would be addressed at that time. So it would be a whole nother process. They'd need to come in. They can't just go obtain a state ABC license and start serving alcohol. They need to return to this body.
Because I know there's a lot of places that I've been to, as soon as you see alcohol in the building, there's 1 or 2 security guards within the premises. That's like, part of the basic rule.
Okay, any other questions? All right, would the applicant like to, I don't see any, well, I should ask, is there any in the public to speak? Would the applicant like to tell us about the project, or?
My name is Armando Duarte. I actually represent ownership for the Alessandro Plaza under the name of Alessandro Group LLC. We've been working with the tenant. The tenant and I have been working very diligently, I say over the past year and a half, to make sure that we comply with all the rules, all the from the gas meters to the water department, all the various fees that come along with the application process. We feel as ownership that we found, to partner up with the right tenant, very qualified, and it's a 5-year lease deal. So we feel very strongly, obviously, to be here, just to move forward with this project. So I appreciate all the time, consideration, and looking forward, to have this tenant on site for a long time.
Questions of the applicant?
Time in the future, I'm still stuck on the alcohol. I just can't believe there's gonna be a big banquet hall and just, they're gonna serve food without really serving alcoholic beverages of any kind, whether it be wine or.
Again, that's up to tenants' discretion. Of course, what we do have on site is a security guard. Now, we do still have to hash out some of those key points as far as having added security. Is that a concern that?
No, I was just wondering if the tenant at any time in the 5-year lease, if they were thinking of acquiring a license to be able to
You
have
know what,
alcohol on the premises.
again, we discussed that point, and perhaps in year number 2 or 3, they're going to revisit that idea. But as of right now, it's strictly no alcohol use.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it would have to come back to us for that.
That's correct.
Any
I
other
have a
questions?
question, sir. Are you the applicant or you're the shareholder of the property?
I represent the property.
The property.
Yes, ownership. Mhm.
Is the person in the back the applicant?
That is correct.
Okay. So are you speaking on her behalf?
I am speaking on behalf of ownership and the applicant. I'm sorry, and the tenant.
Okay, because what I do is I look at the conditions that the applicant has to obey. And one of them, on page 242, the police chief may require the business owner to provide future security. So what I want to know is the applicant understands all the conditions that they will be applying themselves to.
Right. So we do have in the lease agreement a built out rules and regulations to the park, and one of those is the staffing of that ownership provides, especially through the night, security.
Okay, because I'm only reading the conditions that if it gets approved tonight, the applicant is going to obey those things to make the renters or the guests of 200 safe.
Correct.
That's important.
Yes.
That's a lot of people in there at one time. All right, thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, close the public comment period. We're now in deliberation. Deliberators.
I'll take a shot at it. I went by there twice, earlier and today, and when I was getting my vehicle serviced at Mazda, it gave me time to go over this stuff a little longer. And the good thing about this project, that the tenant is going to be putting a lot of new tools in it, new kitchen, 13 brand new pieces inside the facility. So they're going to remodel the whole inside. So it could be appealing to those that rent it and those that come and visit it, and for those that also are going to have a great time in it. So when I look at the project, I think of some things that have happened in the past where there's not enough exits or the doors are locked, not closed, but locked, and no security, the place burned down, everybody's trying to rush out of 2 or 3 doors, and somebody gets injured and dies. See, when I look at a project like that, I got to see all the doors like I did, make sure the back is unlocked, because we're going to have young people, adults, little kids, babies, inside this wedding ceremony, and if we all got to rush out the door, there's going to be somebody that's going to get injured
dropped, run over. So, again, I'm grateful for law enforcement that gets involved. Definitely the fire marshal. He has 13 ones in here. I look at that. I look at the safety of the residents that come to use that facility, whether it's somebody in Moreno Valley or somewhere else that comes into our city. I want to make sure that they're safe and they abide by all the rules. That's why I asked the the shareholder about the applicant, to make sure that they understand the responsibility of having 200 guests in this facility to be safe at all times. And that's what's important to me. And I believe that they met that criteria with the help of the fire marshal and the police chief. They meet that criteria. It's not that easy to get an ABC license. Everything that comes into the facility, even the catering, has to go through the state of California. They gotta have a license. So everybody that comes into that building, if the fire marshal walks in or the police department walks in, that certificate will be hanging somewhere on the wall, somewhere, so they can see it. So that's the ensuring part of having independent contractors that come in with a license and insurance and bonds to make sure that everything is taken care of correctly in the city of Moreno Valley.
I was just going to say, I have about 13 years of experience running events in museums, and I am very familiar with the process and the layouts. The layout is clean, it's perfect, every T is crossed, every I is dotted. That's what we all look for. So I believe it would be a very good functioning facility based on the layout that's in front of us. So I find it really nicely done. And good luck. Okay.
Where did it go?
I recommend that we approve resolution, am I on the right one, 2019-34, and approve PEN 19-0181 conditional use permit.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, we have a first and a second. Let's please vote. It's approved 7-0. Can we have a staff wrap up?
The action taken by the Planning Commission tonight is an appealable action. Any interested party would need to file an appeal in writing within 15 days of the action. The appeal would be directed to the attention of the Community Development Director with the appropriate fee. And if any appeal was filed, it would be settled in front of the the City Council.
Thank you. Good luck with your project.
Amen.
Okay. Let's see here. All right. Next item is commissioner comments. Does any of the commissioners have anything they'd like to add?
I'm just glad that the city of Moreno Valley is taking part of affordable housing. It's very important. For many that may not like it, may have bad ideas, we can turn it around. And we did tonight. We turned it around. It's a great project. It's built well. It's going to have a lot of great designs, so it's going to make the neighborhood well. So I hope that the city continues and those developers that are out there will open for business in the city of Moreno Valley.
Do we have any staff comments?
None.
And at this time, our Planning Commission meeting is adjourned at 9:05 p.m. to our next regular meeting, October 24th. Have a good night.